button. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
No,
Oh,
I was trying to do it on my computer, and I guess I couldn't do it on my computer.
oh no. Yep. Sorry. I totally forgot to tell you that.
No, you're fine.
I hate that desktop Mac
Yeah.
because it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. All good.
I had like a crazy week, so I'm glad that you understand moving this schedule.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. All good.
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce myself, and then you can introduce yourself. Hi guys, welcome back to Chats with Courtney. This is episode 9. I can't believe it. We have Olivia, and Olivia, can you tell my followers about your story?
So, I'm Olivia. I am 22 years old. I am just recently graduated from the University of Missouri. I have muscular dystrophy. So I have congenital muscular dystrophy, which they haven't really found the exact diagnosis yet for me.
Okay.
So they're trying to like I was diagnosed when I was in sixth grade, and we have yet to figure out which type I have. Um,
Really?
yeah, so they like so I have one gene of limb-girdle,
Okay.
but then I don't have like the other gene to like match limb-girdle. So it's like
Oh,
I am like a mystery to
me
doctors.
too. That's so interesting because I am a mystery doctor's, and this week I'm just like having health crises, and I was just talking to my friends. I'm like, I literally feel like a lamb brat.
Yeah.
Like it's wow. I'm so glad that you said that because I really want to talk about that because literally that's what I'm going through this week. So I'm so grateful that not grateful, but
Yeah.
you can relate. Wow.
Yeah. They, so my mom, my sister, and my brother all have different forms of the MD. So my mom is the
Oh,
carrier. And then so
wow.
it's like this whole like family thing.
Oh my
We're like
God.
a
I've never
we're like
met
a
a family.
yeah, we're like a medical mystery. So they've been trying to figure out like what I have for since sixth grade.
Okay.
I've been doing tests, we've been doing like hospital like muscle biopsies, um just all these different tests.
And the blood test didn't come up like at all?
Correct. So like I have the worst off of like my siblings. Um,
Okay.
so I use a wheelchair. I have breathing issues,
Yep.
all these fun
Heart.
things. Yeah. So well, actually not hard. Actually, hard is fine.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah. So we've been recently accepted into the UND, which is the Undiagnosed like Disease Network, and
Oh, that's
so
cool.
they like are trying to like figure out like basically like what I have because nobody can figure out like the exact type of MD I have, and none of the 49 types.
Wow. Yeah, so I didn't actually like like obviously I was 3 when the doctors told my mom that I have muscular dystrophy, but my mom was a nurse, so she was like, okay, like what type of muscular dystrophy? And we didn't have like social media because I'm 29. So my mom like literally went to all the libraries, took out so many books, like literature, and like we went to so many neurologists in the world. Like it was mind blowing. And then at 16, I went to the MDA clinic And they were like, oh, we have the blood test. I was like, oh, cool. And I come up with wait, it's like hard. LMNA gene defect
Hmm.
muscular dystrophy. And they're like, when you're at the clinic, all the residencies are there and like they're like, staring at you. I'm like, so like, what's what's going on? They're like,
Right.
well, Courtney, like, there's only like now I think we have like 180 people in like the
Yeah.
world that have this. So it's so interesting that you are having the same issue. Like I know like my muscular dystrophy, but it's so rare that like doctors can't even like help me. Like, like I see like SMA and Duchenne's. I'm like, oh, they have treatments. Like that's not fair.
Yeah, so it's been interesting too, and like at this point, it's like I don't really need a diagnosis name because I'm
Right?
like, it's like it is what it is, but also like it would be good to know like treatment and stuff if
Yeah.
they can find it. So we're going to into this program that will basically um, it's like doctors all over the world, and they'll do like they'll look at all my records, they'll look at all my tests, and then I have to go in for like 5 to 6 days to do like an evaluation, like in a hospital. But then like I can go like back and forth from like my house to like the hospital, so it's like an inpatient thing.
Uh-huh.
But um
Wow.
I'm like hopefully this will give us some answers, especially because
Yeah.
especially because my siblings are affected too, so it's
Okay.
like at least for them, like that would
And
be
they have the same like I guess gene defect like you.
so it's interesting because we're all presented in a different way.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, so like I am more affected, but then like my brother has similar symptoms than I do, and then my mom and my sister are like similar. So I can't remember if they do have the same gene or not, but it's so interesting. They're always like, we can name a disease after you. I'm like, ah,
Right?
ah, I'm good. Yeah,
Wow, that is so
yeah.
interesting. Wow. And like did you like walk did you have like the walking like time or just wheelchair?
So I'm still able to walk.
Oh, cool.
So I mean not very far, but
Right.
not gonna run a marathon anytime soon. But I definitely would say as far as walking, like when I was younger, it was I walked on my toes.
Okay.
And then it like middle school was kind of where we start to saw like the
Me
change.
too. Me too.
But
Yep.
and I also had spinal fusion
Oh,
when
okay. Yep.
when I was in seventh grade too, so that kind of rapidly
Yeah,
progressed
that's
my MD.
actually what I'm hearing about the people that I'm talking about with my podcast. So that's interesting that like you lost. Obviously, you're in a like bed and resting. So obviously, like your muscles like not doing the, you know, walking. So that's interesting that the spinal surgery did that.
Yeah, so I would definitely would say that like it definitely increased my progression as
Uh
far
huh.
as weakness, and I also do think it's because of that age too, where it was 13 between
Yep.
15, so that also could have done it too, but I still have been able to be consistent more. Um, and then in college, it kind of increased progression a little bit more because I was a little bit more in my chair and
Yeah.
not walking around as much because it was a bigger
Yeah.
campus. COVID hit too, and I just
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was a huge thing for me
Yeah.
too.
Me too.
Um, But currently, just trying to work on maintaining that strength and maintaining
Uh-huh.
that by doing muscle therapy and adaptive training.
Okay.
Um, so those two things have been really helpful in the scheme of like making me move a little bit more and being able to um, do a little bit more functional things and hopefully be a little bit more independent than I was in
Yep.
college a little bit. But
Wow, that's so interesting. Did you go to a regular school?
yes,
Well, yeah, me too. I think I'm grateful because um, I don't know. I liked my experiences. I mean, obviously, like I got bullied in middle school, but that's like everyone. So I mean, obviously, it's like it was a little like harder for me to fit in. Um, but yeah, that was my experiences. In high school, I think I got better. And college, I was, like I loved just socialize. So I had really such a great friends in college.
right.
Uh,
And like for me, middle school, I got my wheelchair in high school. So in middle school, it was kind of like it was hard for people to believe because I had an invisible disability at that point.
right, right,
And then like when I got to high school, it kind of was like, oh shoot, like this is actually like what's happening in her world.
right.
And so it kind of became apparent, I would say, in high school because I did transition to a
Yeah.
wheelchair, and then in college, still having that progression of using the chair.
Did
Yeah.
you go to college on campus alone?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
So I live, well, so my freshman year on campus, I lived in a dorm with two other people, like in like a suite thing. And then um, my sophomore and junior year, I was in a sorority house and like by myself in a room because it was during COVID too. And I didn't want to be like around people and
Yeah.
it was a whole thing. And then my senior year, I lived with two other people, and then I was in an apartment on campus. I did have PCAs during that time, just
Okay.
because I was weaker, and I did need a little extra help,
Yep.
just with getting out of bed and getting into bed.
Yep.
Um, and that's pretty much it. In bathrooms sometimes, but
Uh-huh.
as far as like independence now, I definitely would say that like I don't need that help anymore.
Oh, wow.
Um, well, as far as like having PCAs and stuff, but
Right.
my mom still helps me with some things.
Okay.
But I am living at home um, until my boyfriend graduates,
Okay.
and then um, like getting out of bed is harder than getting in bed. Um,
Huh.
yeah,
I
so
would, I
and
think the opposite.
yeah, so it's because I am so I fell
Oh,
when I got out of bed at one point and then I stopped
mm-hmm.
wanting to do
Yeah.
that. So there's a lot of things like in my head like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'm gonna stop doing this because I fell, or like I'm gonna
Yeah.
so there's a lot of like mental block with that too
Yeah.
with me. So like
Yeah. Me too.
um so I would say like getting out of bed is harder. Um I would say like getting dressed,
Mm-hmm.
I am able to do by myself. My pants are
Yeah.
hard. Like shorts, I can do. Like pants are a no-go.
Right.
Um, the bathroom, so I'm able to do that by myself.
That's awesome.
Um, so there is a lot of independence, but there's also like a lot of things I do need help with,
Mm-hmm.
and it sucks because sometimes like I don't feel my age because I'm having somebody help me or like
Yep. I
and
totally agree.
yeah,
I talk
there's just
about that.
Yeah.
really talk about that. I said to my therapist, I said, I feel like Hannah Montana. Like I'm just like half of my body is like obviously chronic ill, and then half of my body is like a 29-year-old. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so hard to like balance that life.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it's not talked about. Like, a lot of
Yeah,
people are just like, they either think you're very independent or they don't think you're independent at all.
right.
So
Right. Yeah,
it's really hard to like balance or like not a balance, but I guess just like have that one wanting to be independent, and then two like having that barrier of people thinking that. So it's hard. It's kind of a catch 22.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's so hard, and it's like it's hard because like you don't know what the future is. So like, this week I'm just like worrying about the future, and like there's no medical journals about my muscular dystrophy, so I'm like, okay, like it's trial and error. Like okay, like that's fine some days, and some days I just like lash out. I'm like,
Right,
it just
right.
sucks.
Yeah, so I definitely think having that is it's good to have that diagnosis and have that treatment and be able to, you know, ha, have that known thing, but also like for us, like we don't know. We don't know the future. We don't know
Nope.
what it entails, and like that's a little scary.
Yeah,
And like
really scary.
and like like and I think like at this point I'm kind of like, like it is what it is. Like I'm consistent so far. Like I'm not like progressively like, you know,
Right.
declining in any
Right.
way, but it's also like it would be nice to know. It would be nice to just for like family purposes too, just
Or
like of like,
treatments
you
like
know,
the SMA,
right.
Sue from Raza. Like I'm like I wish,
Yeah.
even
Um,
those like little things that like people take for granted.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow, it's so interesting about you. I love this. I really, really, but let's talk about college. You went to Missouri Journal School. Um, why did you study digital marketing?
So I wanted to be able to tell people's stories through their brand, through their company, or however they express that. I wanted to make sure that they had a voice. Um, and like that's kind of like hand in hand with like the disability advocacy part
Yeah.
because I want to be able to provide them like a voice, and you know, it's always a constant struggle for someone in the disabled community to have that voice.
Hmm.
And I kind of want to like be that person to push their story
Right.
along, and like be able to tell their story.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally relate. I think social media is a great thing because I mean I started social media like when Instagram came out like 12 years ago, and I had that same mindset. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna use this for good. Um,
yeah,
and like obviously I'm like posting about my normal life, but again I'm like amplifying issues that I'm dealing with because in Long Island, like I was the only girl that had muscular dystrophy. So like I felt alone because I was, going to an able bodied school all my life. So I just felt so alone. And I think when Instagram and Facebook, I think it was really like Instagram that I kind of like found like three like muscular dystrophy like people. I mean, it was like obviously so long ago that I
Right.
was like, oh, that's cool. Like I had a friend in Tampa, and she had muscular dystrophy. I think I literally found her on Tumblr, like back in the day. But that was my first like interaction with a muscular dystrophy person because of social media. So I was like,
Yeah.
this is really cool.
Well, and like even like as like a young adult, like with a disability and like coming out of college, like I have faced a lot of like challenges and things that
Yeah,
like aren't talked about. And so
yeah,
like, you know, even before my transition of being home, there's like a lot of things that have happened in my personal
yeah,
experience that like aren't talked about. And like I feel like that is where like a lot of the misconceptions and misrepresentation like comes in. It's because like those things aren't talked about and aren't known about. And like we have to be the ones to advocate for things because unfortunately like people that aren't in the community like don't know until they're educated about it or like have that lived experience that like they know someone in the community. So it's just really like a it's really something that like runs deep with me just because I do have that, ability to be able to write
yeah.
and to be able to speak and like be able to amplify other people's voices is really important to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I loved to write when I was younger, so I had the same like vision. I was like, I love writing. Like like in school, I was a write, like like got B's, but all my English papers, like they were like, Courtney, like you have like something, and I'm like, no, like obviously, like I was like so like self confident, like not like having no confidence, and then like it grew. Teachers were saying like, Courtney, this is like a great, because I like wrote about muscular dystrophy, or like my dad was an alcoholic, and you know, and like I had the same thoughts because I was like going like obviously having muscular dystrophy, and when we were younger, like alcoholics and addiction, like family members were not talked about, and I kind of like felt ashamed, but I'm like, no, this is my life. Like this is what I go through every day, so I'm not gonna like I think it was like my senior thesis in high school. I'm not going to write like a random like subject that doesn't mean a lot to me.
Right, right. I totally agree.
So I don't know. I just loved writing, and I think I love that you did this. I wonder if you had any like disability representation going to school doing this.
So I definitely would say like in college, I did like a lot of like, disability related stuff on campus. So like I was a part of Mizzou Disability Coalition and the disability like um what is it called? Disability Committee, Chancellor's Committee. And like we were able to like um have a positive impact on campus. So if there was things that were um that needed to be improved on campus, we were able to um bring that up to admin and then they would see if they could fix it. Like, so like I had that kind of impact. I definitely would say like just me writing to um, a lot of my stories came from a personal perspective of someone
Yeah.
having a disability. Um, so I definitely think like I've learned so much useful knowledge from the journalism school. It's
Okay.
like hard to it's hard to narrow it down to like one specific thing, but I do think like one thing that like immediately comes to mind is like people first is like one of the things that like was highly like, you know, just like overly like you need to have people first and like make sure that like it's about their story, their values, their mission, like, and not your opinion. And so I definitely think it goes like hand in hand with, you know, wanting to be a part of, I know we were going to talk about this, but
Yeah,
like wanting to be a part of the healthcare industry, it's always about wanting to make people your first priority.
right,
Um,
right.
and so that's kind of like why like I wanted to do healthcare industry.
Absolutely.
I haven't like officially gotten into that um, because I'm still job hunting. Um, but I would definitely say like you know one of my reasons for trying to go into healthcare industry in that specific niche is because of my personal experience. I want to be able to connect, you know, my experiences and be able to bring that into any research that, you know, happens in that healthcare industry. I want to be able to, you know, make that connection between the client and me because I share those shared experiences.
Yeah.
So,
No, I totally agree. And you know, very, it's very, um, it's a positive outlook then when you relate to someone and they can, you know, relate to your story and see, like you said, people first. And that's a great like narrative that you said because it is people first. It's not the disability, and it's not like I don't know. I think growing up, I think people judged me about my disability, and I just wanted to be known like Courtney Davis, not my disability. So, like growing up with a disability, it's so hard to not get judged because you have a disability, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. And I definitely think like I still struggle with that too. Even though like I was um, you know, diagnosed later on and not like an early like onset thing, like most people with MD. I do feel like you still get you still get those looks of, oh, like, you know, why is she in a wheelchair? Or like people like will treat, you know, me differently than my siblings. Um,
Mhm.
like people will like
Yeah,
they'll talk to me like I'm a child. I'm like,
yeah.
no, I am 22 years old. I don't need to be talked like a child.
Oh, yeah. I
Please.
still get that.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. It's horrible. Like, I don't, I think it really comes down to people not knowing how, not how to approach, but I guess they're just not educated. And it's
And
really,
I say
it,
that
it's really
all the time.
unfortunate, but like, that's just how it is. And like, I wish that like it was able, you know, people were knowing and willing to be able to, I guess, not know before you like you're,
Right.
you know, just it's a hard concept too to be like, oh well, you know, you if you're only like if you only know it if like you're in it. Well, that's not a great answer, you
Oh,
know, like people do should be aware of it regardless.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm doing my coloring books because obviously I didn't have any representation growing up. And, you know, I'm a graphic designer. And I just had this thought. I'm like, because I have a cousin that is 5, and I always like give her like, you know, inclusion books. And I just thought about, you know, a coloring book, and I looked it up, and they really had no coloring books about all inclusive. And
Yeah,
I said, this is a really good idea because it starts with the kid. You have to just present the disability as a normal
yeah.
thing. Um,
Because even like a lot of like adults like just don't know how to like react or to understand or to just be a human. And it's really sad and like, it's sad to be like, oh well, you have to know it to, you have to be in it to know it. Well, it should be taught earlier, and like I know that
Absolutely.
it's hard. It's definitely like something that I'm like, okay, well, I guess I get it in some ways, but other ways I'm like, well,
I
you could be.
think now we have more representation. Like, my best friend is a teacher, and we love to go to Barnes and Noble and just look at the books. And like, Tatiana, they have so many books, like, about like, inclusion, wheelchairs, blind. I was like, this is so cool. Like, my inner child like lit up because like when I was growing up, they had no books.
Right, right there.
So
I mean, and I think too, like that's where like social media and stuff comes into play. Like,
exactly.
it's so important to like be able to amplify your voice through social media and like tell people about it because, like we didn't have all like stuff growing up, so it's like it's a really cool opportunity to be able to express that, through social media or through like writing and like writing a newsletter or like, doing certain things to educate and bring awareness to other people that don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great um, idea. So, are you doing social media full time or just like part
So
time?
I'm doing it part-time right now. I have like my own social media business,
Cool.
um, kind of working with like different clients and different industries, but still haven't hit the healthcare industry yet,
That's
but working my
okay.
way, working my way there, and I have like a goal and a vision for that. So, really just kind of like trying to get some experience and be able to like, grow that experience for when I do get a full-time job. So.
Yeah, I did social media for, I mean, still now. And I actually, I don't know if, like, I don't really talk about it, but actually in college, my girlfriends, we had a social media business. So it's kind of like before, like, the boom of Instagram. So, like, probably it's like 10 years ago now. So I like had obviously like that experience, and I said this is like a really cool thing. And yeah, I worked with real estate agents, a nonprofit organization, and it's cool. I mean, it's really cool because again, when you're disabled, you can do social media in your bed. And that's why I love graphic
Yeah.
design and social media because obviously we have, challenges because we're on Medicaid and we can't get a full time. And that's like another topic that, really irritates me.
Oh,
Um,
don't even get me started with that. I literally, oh my gosh. So I tried to do that for like, so like I was like, obviously in a transition between college and um, trying to figure out what options were best for me. And like trying to get like funding for transportation and all this other stuff because so right now my mom drives me um when she can to my appointments and stuff, but I wanted to be able to like do it myself or something. So we looked into accessible transportation, and accessible transportation is outrageous.
yeah,
And then um I don't actually qualify for any of the government services like funding and stuff
because
because
makes too much money.
that,
Hmm.
that, and because I work too much.
Yep.
And I said, okay, well,
Yep.
so that was kind of like a hard like thing, but also like I realized like later on like, this is only a transition period for me right now, so like
Right.
later on I am going to be fine. Like I'll
Yep.
be able to hopefully afford doing that myself and being able to pay for that without like getting help. But it's just
But it's
stupid.
so
It's
stupid.
so
Like, I had to literally decline a social media job, and it was like a really good paying job. And she was like, "Yeah, it's like on the books, and I was like literally crying. I'm like, Mom, like I fuck, sorry, like so upset because like I'm just like I'm so sick of like not getting jobs because of government assistance. Like it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
so I like did I'm not like I'm not to the point where I like have to have it. So I like was like I'm not doing this right now. Like this is not something I need. Like this is not something that like I'm, you know, going to do right now. Like, if it is something that I, have to do at one point, I will. But right now it's going to be very limiting
Like
for me and like I'm not doing that to myself. So
no, yeah, if you don't like really like need aids, it's just not worth it because like you just it's just so
it
corrupt.
it that whole thing needs to be updated. I like
And
when
people
I saw
don't really understand this until like I'm like, yeah, I can't get married. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like marriage, like if we get married, like the partner, like it's just like the partner makes too much, so I'm like gonna lose my benefits. And they're like,
yeah, and
Courtney,
like
you're lying. I'm like, I'm not lying. Like
yeah,
that's
and
the truth.
and that's how like what like that's like my partner and I decided that like we're not doing that because yeah, he'll make too much and I will lose my benefits. So it's like marriage or
Yeah,
benefits. So it's definitely something that like isn't talked about and I do wish it was talked about more
yeah, me too.
and like I do feel like, once again like this is a conversation that like needs to happen more often and like one, the government needs to update their stuff. But two, like I do feel like it's just like something that isn't talked about and it needs to be. And like that's why like we're here to talk about it. Like it's
Yeah.
just like, something that just blows.
Doesn't make sense and people don't get it. And I'm like, imagine me doesn't like make like no sense. Like I'm like a type A. Like everyone needs to make sense. And like I just complain about my therapist. I'm like I can't like I can't like understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to like wrap my head around and like I was like pretty upset about it at first when like I heard about it. For one, like I had no idea until I learned about it.
Yeah,
Like I had no clue. And
yeah.
then like
No
I got
college
into it and I was like,
for me.
yeah, and I was like, holy cow. I was like, this is so messed up in so many different
And
ways.
why does
Like
the high school counselors talk about it with us?
they
Like, why is it not talked about?
yeah,
Like, it's so like secret.
yeah. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, no, I can talk about that forever because I want to become the president and change this corrupt like system because we deserve more and we really do. And there's so many challenges that we go through, and then we have to balance having a chronic illness and like, oh yeah, when do we get a break?
Yeah. It is crazy for sure.
But so your social media, so are you liking it? Like, do you want to do that or like just transition to healthcare, journalism, like field, or just like do both?
Yeah, yeah. So I really do like the social media aspect of you know, just everything of that because I can be remote, like you said, like
Yeah.
it's great, like I love it. It's, something, but I do want to work eventually doing like health in the healthcare industry. So like
Okay.
working for like a hospital or working for like uh healthcare
Okay.
or whatever thing or other, but doing social media or doing digital marketing. So like, children like just one of those
Yeah.
bigger name hospitals or even
Awesome.
nonprofits too,
Yeah.
like Just really open to anything. Um, and I'm really excited about it. I just am very like, I just need to take one step at a time. But
Yeah, you're only 22.
yeah,
When I was 22, I had that business. We had like 5 customers, and now I'm 29. And I think when you have a skill and your friends know your skill, they're gonna call you because they have like, and my best friend calls me. He's like, hey, like, he's a real estate like agent. He's like, can you like do social media like for this agent? I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I just like I don't say no, and I think that's like my model. I just do whatever is like presented, and it's like a cool like learning lesson because you're learning and making money and doing what you're passionate.
right. And I think too, like, I'm always the person too, being like, I always want to learn. I
Like
always
me
want to
too.
be like, I don't ever want to stop learning,
Yeah.
like, but I won't go back to school.
No, no. Me too. Oh my god, I had literally that discussion with my best friend
Yeah.
last night. I was like, I love learning, but school just stresses me out. Like, I love YouTube. Like, I'm a nerd. I just go on YouTube and like I do Pinterest marketing. I do everything. I'm a nerd.
Right.
um, but yeah, I love learning.
Yeah, and so I definitely think like I'm always wanting to learn and always wanting to like try different like, things with social media.
Yeah.
And I think it is just so nice being able to be remote because my I'm flexible. My schedule's flexible right now. Like I can work on my own time. So I really think it's like beneficial in those ways too. But yeah, so
Oh my god, yeah, I like that our journeys is like the same. And then so you got your undergrad in journalism.
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, what else? Did you have any challenges of like doing digital marketing and the healthcare, like just like challenges like with I don't know, like your chronic illness or just like something?
So no, not yet.
Okay, well, that's good.
Which is good, which I'm like, okay, like, cross my fingers so nothing happens. But I've been able to like, do everything that I need to be doing for it. I do just think like, having that perspective and being able to talk about my story and connect it to those people in that industry, I think is super important. And I think that like once I do get into the industry, like it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Like, I
it
think
really is. It's really a great community, and you'll get so many offers when your friend has a friend and they need social media. Like, I'm that girl, and it's so cool that you have a skill that you can just like zone in and do that. And
right.
that's
And I do,
obviously like your story and healthcare, so that's cool.
and I'm super excited too to like start in that industry because I know that's like something that like I'm super passionate about. But it's just finding that one job that's
Yeah,
gonna get me there, and that's been really hard too. It's just like the job industry right now is like super weird, and so
yeah,
like every time I do an interview, it's always like, oh, like, well, they have more experience than you, and
I
I'm
know.
like, okay, so like that's fine. Like so like right now, like I'm just trying to like freelance and
Yep,
see if like
that's
and
what I
kind
do.
of and kind of keep my business going
Yeah,
and like see if like people like in that industry wanna, dab their feet and like, get me somewhere,
yeah,
help them with that in that health industry, get my foot in the door and then go from there.
yeah, and learn so like so many skills. Like I like literally like do like podcast editing. I do video editing because I'm like a nerd. So I just study everything that I
Yeah.
can just freelance.
Yeah.
It's so cool because it works out.
And it does. And it really gets your like foot in the door if you really want to get somewhere.
Yeah,
And like that's kind of what I'm hoping to do is just hopefully that that one freelance takes it to the next step.
yeah,
But at this point I'm not really too concerned about it because I do have freelance work.
yeah,
So um I'm just super excited to start getting into that and being able to amplify other people's voices.
yeah. I love that. Okay, well, we have the last question because it only allows me to interview my guests for an hour. So we have to wrap up. Okay, so the question is for those inspiring to make a difference in healthcare, digital marketing, what, what advice do you have for using your skills to amplify marginalized voices and contribute to positive industry changes?
Yeah, so I definitely would say use your power of writing. So use your experience and knowledge to storytell. And that's what it's all about. Like, I think, being able to use your story or use your writing to be able to tell the voices and stories of marginalized groups is going to help with the positive industry because people will hopefully start to understand that, like, uh, more about the lived experiences of the communities if we share our stories and be able to like amplify that.
Yeah, I agree. I think people like hearing different stories and not relate, but it's just another voice that they can consider and not judge, a person in a wheelchair or, a spinal cord injury. Like, I guess, like the disability community is so large that we have so many stories and so many awesome people that we just have to tell our story and make change because we need change like ASAP.
And perspective too. I think
Yes.
perspective too is like something that's like super important and something that a lot of people who aren't in the community don't have of the disabled community. I do feel like, being able to bring in our perspective and experience is so important to, you know, be able to relate and be able to connect with other people that, have these lived experiences as well as like trying to figure them out. So,
I agree. Let's be president and change this world. But I love your story. We have to meet up because I love like where rare chicks.
yes, us rare chicks gotta stick together.
Yeah, exactly. I love your story, and you are a positive outlook, and you're doing so much for, digital marketing and social media. Just like, just like little things that your voices are, included, and they are great for the future and the kids and representation.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to us chatting more and
Yeah.
being able to get together soon.
But I love this. Thank you so much. I had so much fun, and I will put it on Spotify and I will send it to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Maybe.
Wait, Michael, can you end it? Sorry.
No, you're good.